Next, to a writer who some laud as an early, if unlikely, feminist icon. Jane Austen died 200 years ago. Since then, her novels about love, courtship and marriage have inspired countless authors and the whole genre of romantic fiction. But it hasn't been 2 centuries of continuous praise. D.H. Lawrence called her work English in the bad, mean, snobbish sense of the word. So how far have women in literature come since Elizabeth Bennet first bagged Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice? Well, I'm thrilled to talk about this. I'm an Austen fan. I'm joined by Dr. Helena Kelly, author of Jane Austen, The Secret Radical, and from near Rinkeby in Denmark, one of my new favourite novelists, Dorthe Nors, whose book Mirror, Shoulder, Signal, about a single middle-aged woman trying to find her way in the world, was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize this year. Delighted to have you both with us. Helena, first, can you just sort of paint a bit of a picture for us, 200 years ago, of Jane Austen, the world she was in, her writing and her characters?
Austen was the second youngest of a very large family. There were 8 children. And she lived, by and large, really quite a quiet life, mostly in rural Hampshire, in Steventon. It's a very small village in Steventon, and then later in Chawton. And it's a very kind of quiet maiden auntish life. But at the same time, she was creating these kind of six great novels that we know and love, and that, as you say, have kind of given rise to the genre of romantic fiction, sort of.
Dorthe, do you think characters that we see now, and I hesitate to call it in women's fiction, just in fiction, but that female characters, their concerns are that much different to what we saw 200 years ago?
Well, I definitely think they are different, but a lot of fiction that women write is, of course, about what it is to be like a woman, and that will be motherhood, that will be love, that will be marriage, family life, but there is a great variety of what women write about today that you couldn't write about back 200 years ago. A lot of emancipation has been going on since then, thank God, I would say.
I think about characters like Emma, though, bold, sharp and witty. Do you think that now you can create characters that sort of are even more bold than back then?
You definitely can, because you can investigate the female body and the female experience of being in the world in an incredibly different kind of way. But Jane Austen was definitely ahead of her time, because she created women who were strong, who had their own viewpoints, and also she created women who had a satirical eye, who had power when they looked at the world and could demask the masculine world and could sort of make fun of it, which is incredibly courageous when you come to think about it. It still is a dangerous thing to do for women, actually, in writing.
Helena, is that why you call her the secret radical, Jane Austen?
I suppose. I mean, I think that you can see in her novels quite a lot of kind of directly political references and kind of discussions. So there's quite a kind of general idea that in Mansfield Park, for example, she's actually at least kind of dealing with the question of slavery. But as well, I mean, just the way that she was writing about women was not unique at the time, but I think, as you were saying, it's a very kind of radical thing to think of marriage choices as being kind of really significant, not just the kind of, happy ending of a story, but actually something which is going to kind of shape your life, that you need to think about carefully because of the kind of legal ramifications at the time. I mean, obviously, women, you become your husband's property essentially at this point when you marry. So you want to choose Mr. Darcy and not Wickham. Basically, you want to get it right.
You want to get it right. Dorthe, did it feel radical, to use that word that Helen has just used, for you to write about a single, childless woman of a certain age? Because your character in your latest book, it's not one that we see very often.
No, which is strange, because there are so many women who are not married and don't have children out there. There are so many authors, but it's still a bit provocative to write about. And if you think about Jane Austen, these women would always be in sort of the periphery of her stories too. So they've always been around, but never really had their own voices. These days, it is important to sort of portray women detached from motherhood, detached from marriage, detached from all of these structures that have been keeping us down or has been shaping our lives. And personally, as a writer, I find that very interesting to investigate.
How do men react to your book, Dorthe?
Well, I think they react to my books like they did to Jane Austen's. They probably go, I don't understand all that writing about womanhood. And this interesting thing is that when a man writes a book, you say, well, he's writing about mankind. He's writing about human existence. When a woman writes the book with a female protagonist, we're writing about womanhood. That might not seem gender biased, but it is, because it is a way of saying that women are not human beings and that we're some sort of subcategory. So I have that reaction. I also have men who adore my books, so that's good.
That is good indeed. Dorthe, good to have you with us. Helena, thank you very much for joining us. Emma will be in my bag again for holiday reading. Thanks for joining us on GMT. Bye-bye.